What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And this is episode number 88 of the Hustling Sideways podcast.
We are getting there.
Getting really close.
We used to be like, oh, episode 25. Like, you're almost a young adult, and you're like, we would make like age jokes. And
now we're
we just don't do that. Now we're nearly dead, which is great. But we are inching closer to a century mark that we never thought we would get. And we actually have plans pretty much to get there. For the next couple months, so stay tuned. But it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And we're gonna be back at Marquette University.
We will be.
That's good.
707 Hub is calling our name. We got a couple shows already planned out. So if you're in Milwaukee, you know you're gonna find us. It's gonna be 3 Thursdays. We actually know the dates. We could
do.
just throw the dates out.
But I don't remember if this one airs. Well, I don't remember if this one's out. We might have already been at.
Well, September 17th, October. November 7th.
Yep.
That's what I remember. We got some good people coming on.
2 of those 3 were right.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. But it is now, it's now mid-September. It's like essentially raining outside, but it's football season. The Bears are back. We are set. This is a Bears podcast, right?
I think maybe not so
it's
much.
Not. I know. Okay. I know where I stand.
It's
but we as this goes, we have people in our lives and our networks that we love to talk to. And sometimes when we have guests on, we met them via like the Tinder of podcasts, which is called Pod Match, which is really cool. Other times we have people who we really know, and I much prefer the second one. No offense to the Pod Match folks, they've been amazing, but it's fun to do that. So we have Jason Smith with us today. Jason is a radio personality at Good Karma Brands and also a speaker, and we've known each other for quite a while. So Jason, welcome to Hustling Sideways.
No, thank you guys for having me. That's what I want to say. Thank you guys. This is truly an honor.
Of course, we're happy to have you, Jason. Tell us about you. Tell us where you grew up. I know obviously you're in Milwaukee now, but tell us a little bit about your childhood and some experiences that have gotten you to where you're at now in terms, especially with your radio life. And we would just love to hear that background.
So let's see. If I start from the beginning, obviously from Milwaukee, I actually stayed on Hampton until I was around about 7, 8, I want to say, and then we moved to Brown Deer. Awesome. So I was in NPS for a little bit, then we eventually moved to Brown Deer. And I was in Brown Deer from 7th grade all the way until graduation. And I want to say that after my senior year, I had no clue what I wanted to do. Like I went to college because I didn't know what to do. But most people, they take the gap year and they like, I'm going to try to figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
I was like, no. I'm going to just go because I know you didn't have to pick your major until
like sophomore, junior. Yeah, right.
So I was like, I'm going to go the first couple years. Mm-hmm. So I went to UWM. I had a news reporting class in my sophomore year, and we got to travel to Puerto Rico.
Nice.
And that's when I realized what I wanted to do. Like, I was like, okay, boom, I can get into the news a little bit. Because I like giving people a voice. I like to interview people. I like, especially people who typically wouldn't be heard or typically wouldn't have the platform to be heard. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I want to get into the news reporting aspect. And I was working for my family's business at the time. My family owned like group homes and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was working in the group homes, and healthcare is just not my field. So like I was in college doing this, and I'm like, no, I got to figure out something that a passion for me. And so I just opened up my laptop, typed in jobs in journalism, and I was like, because after the news reporting class, I decided, yes, I'm going to get my degree in journalism and media.
Sure. Was there a particular experience, like maybe being in Puerto Rico or something that you were like, this is it, like this is why I want to do it?
So when I was there, I was covering statehood, whether or not Puerto Ricans wanted Puerto Rico to become a U.S. state or whether they wanted it to become its own country. Mm-hmm. And I talked to one lady, and she was affected by the hurricane that happened in Puerto Rico years and years ago. Yeah. And when I talked to her, and she was like, she wants Puerto Rico to be a state because she feels that no one cares about her. She feels like no one cares about the territory. She feels that the government treats, Puerto Rico bad. Mm-hmm. And she was like, she wants it to be like New York. She kept comparing it to New York. She kept saying, yes, I want Puerto Rico to be like New York. And I almost start bawling, crying because like the emotion I was in, like you can tell that was pent up, and she was just sitting down and you can just tell she was angry, but she was also disheveled. She didn't know, her mind was all over the place because she trying to figure out, what's going to happen with the territory. Yeah. So that was definitely the moment.
That's really cool. You felt like you're giving her an opportunity to just speak what's on in her mind. And I think it's powerful to have that. And then you come back here, this is what I want to do. This is what I want my career to be. Yeah. And I love pointing back to that because I think it says a lot about the why of it. I think sometimes people are just like, my family's worked in this. You easily could have been in healthcare just because, that's it. But having something that was pretty profound where you're like, oh, I actually gave them an opportunity to say what they really felt like saying and put their emotions out, I think is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Radio personality. Obviously, you have the personality part of it. Yeah. Were you always somebody that's outgoing? Because, I have to do more front-facing stuff now for my current job than I usually would do. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely not a first thing that came to me by any means. Like, it was definitely not, I was not the loud kid.
You're an extroverted introvert. Like that's the way
I guess that's probably,
you can be extroverted when you need to.
Right. Were you always an extrovert, or is that something that kind of just developed with being on camera, being behind a microphone kind of thing?
See, it's really crazy because I consider myself an introvert, which is crazy. I
think that's fascinating. Yes.
So
tell us why.
So I grew up, my family actually owns a church and goes all the way back to my great granddad. So when I was 3 years old, they gave a mic to me and had me preaching.
Okay.
So I was preaching in front of crowds from around 3 years old, honestly, until about 16, 17. And around 14, 15, that's when I started going to different sports banquets, and elementary schools would ask me to come and speak just because I knew one of the dudes, he went to my church. One of the basketball coaches went to my church. So he asked me to come speak at a school for the youth. So I've always had that aspect. But I'm pretty similar to you, as in I can turn it on because I say I have an on and off switch. Yeah. When I'm on, I am on.
Yeah.
But when I am off, I am completely off.
Totally.
So that's why.
I think that's really great. We all need to find our energy somewhere and be on, but you do got to take a moment to not be I think this is so random, but bear with me. I was driving home I was in Chicago on Sunday. I was driving home like late at night, and I had a Chris Farley documentary on. Mm-hmm. I'm a really huge fan, since I was a kid. Yeah. And one of the things that they said in that documentary, he never had an off switch. Like, so he always felt like anywhere he went, he had to be this like wild, outrageous guy, which, fair enough. But that messed with his head a lot, where he couldn't be just relaxed. And when he was alone in his apartment, and like one of his friends said, like, one time I was with him, it was so chill. We were like relaxed. But the minute he stepped out the door, he was Chris. And it was different. Okay, and it wasn't his fault. Like they kind of built him up like that. So like you easily probably could be the on switch all the time, but I think you know yourself where you have to be off for a second and not be so that is probably the introverted party, I would imagine. Like I could shut down. What is it like when you shut down? Are you just quieter, or like what is that like for you?
So like I am a meditator, so I do like to meditate.
Love that. Yeah.
I realize that does a lot for the head. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I'm at the crib, I'm chilling on the couch, put on a comfort show, or I'm really big into documentaries. I'm really big because I'm big into learning. I love history.
Totally.
So like I'm throwing something like that on.
So you're just like all of us. You're binge watching shows. Yes, and you're hanging out. You're a human.
I'm just completely chilling.
They're just like
yeah, that's cool. So when it comes down to it, we're not all machines.
Yeah, you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and whatever your thing is, I think that you know what you like. The meditation I think is so great. I've tried it like many times to really get deep into it. I could do like 10 to 15 minutes and then my mind goes, but to just have a space where you feel like you can do it and then you know that you need it, I think is really cool.
Without question. Phone on do not disturb. Like it's I'm reading something, but just unwinding, relaxing. I talk too much, so it's like when I get done with work, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't really want to talk that much.
Leave work at work.
Let me be quiet.
Yeah. How long is your show? Like how long is that running? Or like how long is it? Hour episodes? What do you do? So like for like the one for the podcast I have, it's called Dream Catchers. That's typically around about 40 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for me, it's all about inspiration. I'm all about inspiration. So the whole idea of it. Like I invite people, like when you guys come on, people who personally inspire me, and that's what I go for. It's not even about a name. It's not about a profession. Like if I feel personally inspired by you, I want to come chop it up because like I want the keys to be given to and not to the next generation. I don't like even saying like let's help out the next generation. It could be somebody 60 years old.
Yeah,
listening.
Just needs that little something.
That little
we
spark.
have that with this show.
Totally.
Like we've had people come on. I think his name escapes me. Dave from Canada.
Yeah, Dave Campbell.
Where like he is not a young entrepreneur, but he's an entrepreneur and like comes on or listens to the show and is inspired.
And
by
he's like really real about that. He's like, I know how old I am. Yeah, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do it, which I love. I agree. It's not age does not dictate anything.
Yeah,
you can be 3 years old speaking at a church or 66 making a new side project and see what happens with it.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And like I think we dictate it in a weird way, like in society, but you don't have to be a certain age to do anything. You can just go enjoy.
But going back to the being able to turn it on and shut it off.
Yeah.
I can imagine after an hour of having to be fully on.
Yeah.
Right? Like you get to the car and you sit there for a second and it's just
dude, this is
and that's
know what I
mean?
We have the same like speaking wise.
Yeah.
When I'm done, I am like I need a half hour to be done. Like I think, and we have this in common, of course. Like when you're up speaking, you're sharing a lot.
Yes.
Like it's almost like a therapy session in front of 500 people, right? So I love every minute of it. But when you're finished, like I just relived some trauma. I spoke about, and then I'm like, I am done. Like you kind of feel like you ran a mental marathon.
You need like a rebound,
and you really got to do it. And it's important to do it. I didn't know that because like when I'm done speaking, sometimes like students will come up, and I love that. But then they leave, and I'm like. And you don't get that all the time, but when you got to go to the car, like, so one time, like, my wife was with me, we left, she was, I'm like, I really just need to, like, not talk. I was like, I'm not, like, quieting her down, but I'm like, give me some space. I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, and that's part of the off switch is to know what you need in that moment. So I take a half hour where I either listen to something or I drive home literally in silence. And when I get back, like, I take a shower. And I'm good, which
being like
that's it. That's the off switch,
right?
And I can get back to being relaxed and chill. But I know what I need to do to be on, and I love being on. But I also love the moment when I'm done because then you also feel accomplished. You feel like you did something, and then you walk away with, okay, that happened, amazing.
You finally get to breathe without question. Because like you saying, after you get done sharing so much about yourself, man, when I get done and all the dust settled, I'm like. Man, what just happened? Like, hold on. Like, so now in my head, I'm going over the whole day of my whole speech or whatever, and the stuff that I said, I'm like, I just shared all of that. Oh man,
I love it.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
Let's backtrack into like the radio life. So you finished college. Are you looking for a job? What was that like to even get hired? Or what was that process like for you? And kind of where you've gotten to now?
So in my my junior year of college, that's when I was still working at the group homes, and I just I was like, boom, I need to figure something out. I actually got a job at my old middle school and was a teaching assistant for a little bit for about a few months. Yeah. But then I realized while I love teaching, I would much rather be something like a professor than a teacher.
You'd be the coolest TA.
You know what I'm saying?
This dude rocks.
We'll be chilling up in there. That's all I'm gonna say. So I was like, after that, I was like, okay, I really need to find something in my field, media. So I just typed in jobs in journalism and just filling out applications, and WTMJ came up. I had never heard of WTMJ radio. I had no clue about it. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna just apply. I have no experience. Like I'm still in college. The only experience I got is the Puerto Rico trip. Yeah, right. So like I was just honestly throwing a dart.
See what happened
blindly to see what happened. And yes, they ended up calling me back for an interview. And what I was just pushing was, one, you get a younger face up in there. You get culture up in there. You get somebody with social media because they were lacking on the social media. And so you get somebody, that's what I was pushing. So then I get into WTMJ, and then I realized that it's under Good Karma Brands, and that they're partnered with ESPN and another station called 101.7 The Truth, and that they're the home of the Bucks, which I grew up loving basketball. Like, I wanted to be the next Stephen A. Smith. Like, that was my goal. So when I got with WTMJ as a news reporter, I'm like, okay, so we can do something here. I did have to relearn everything because, like, in school, I was learning journalism for TV. So I was learning how to write for TV and how to completely different.
What's that? What are some of the differences? Like, what's that like transition wise?
It was a little tough just because so TV is so formal. It's a complete difference. So when you're writing, like you're literally only writing to inform. Yeah, that's what you're doing when you're talking on camera. Obviously, like the teleprompter and like it's just completely radio.
Straight facts, like this is it. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
like radio, you chilling. It's more informal. So as you're writing a story in radio, it's conversational. Yeah. We're talking in radio, it's conversational.
Yeah.
We don't write as if it's a hard news story.
Right.
So you got to relearn from writing. You still use certain like inverted pyramid. You start with the big stuff and then you trickle down. But it's all about the little nuances. It's all about conversation more so than formality.
How long did that take you to adjust to it?
It took me a couple months to fully adjust to it.
Feel like
you
that's
also
just a
don't
whole
have
different...
like the aid of like a visual at all, right? Like it's you and a mic and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. So like
it's
can't
mildly
cut
terrifying.
To some B-roll.
I imagine like if you're like to do that a first couple times, you're probably like, wow, here I am. But then when you get used to it and really get into it, but yeah, I bet a couple months sounds about right. And did you have a moment when you were like, okay, now I got like the sweet spot. I know where I'm at in terms of like writing.
I think when writing, eventually it wasn't like a specific sweet spot, but when it came to speaking on the radio, they gave me an opportunity. I had went to Green Bay and like walked around Lambeau Field and did like some TikToks.
Nice.
So they got me on. And on one of the morning shows, and I had my segment, and I was just like, yeah, man, like I left Lambeau Field, I was feeling rich. And I didn't think much of it after I said that, but what they did was they loved it, and they took that and that little phrase that I said about feeling rich, and they kept repurposing it and using it.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody kept coming to me saying, oh no, you got to stay on this route. Like you have to keep doing this.
Awesome.
So once they told me that, I was like, oh, it's ready. It's ready. And because I realized that video was getting incorporated to radio now. So even though we weren't TV, we still stream live on YouTube and on all these different apps and stuff like that. So we still have the video component on top of being more conversational and more informal.
It's almost like evolving as you're being part of it. And you're seeing the future of like, okay, I can fit into these segments and have a niche with it. That's really important.
Exactly.
What's that first time like when you're behind a live mic? Because I've done radio before, I've done TV before, but like that moment when it's you and you're staring at the mic and you're like TMJ is the biggest talk radio station in the state.
Yeah.
So how does it feel when it's the first time that you're standing in that studio and the light's about to come on and it's about to be go time for you?
Heart's pumping.
I am nervous as all get out. I am sitting here because like in my head it's like, yes, it's me and the mic. But it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people listening right now. And it's no, you don't get a redo.
Right.
Like once you say a word, that word is out there forever.
Yep.
So I'm terrified. And I'm just in my head, I'm trying to stay calm. And I'm just like, okay. I'm honestly meditating while I'm sitting there just in my head trying to just clear my mind of distractions. So, but I'm so grateful because I had guys like Eric Billstead and Mike Spalding, two guys who really helped me, the news director and then a programming director who coached me through set and was sitting right next to me and letting me know like the first time is going to be, you going to be nervous. But what I learned to do from speaking as a kid was to use those nerves as motive. Like I use those when I'm nervous and I got the butterflies, I flip it because I tell people you're only nervous when you care about something.
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
totally.
that was just proving that I had the passion for it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. I think it's such a trick. Like, and you've seen me speak before. Like when I go out on stage, I'm like running around. It's because I'm nervous. I start off and I'm like, I got to get it off my chest. I got to have them engaged. So the first 5 to 10 minutes, usually me kind of doing a chant, getting it going. It's strategic. I do it because to get the students up, but I also do it to really get the butterflies out and then I can get started. If I walked right in and just went for it, it'd be a lot different. But everyone has their trick, right? Like that's just what I learned really early on. Like it's fun. But make no mistake, there's a reason why I do it, and you got to be strategic about doing it. So that's a great point. Like you got to channel it into something that's going to be effective for what you're about to do, and I think you found a good way to do that. I mean,
okay, so question for both of you guys, to both speakers,
please.
Because I was thinking about when I did radio the first time that I was like, okay, I was specifically thinking about like one guy sitting in his car listening to the radio, and then like when I did TV one time, I was thinking of like one old lady is sitting watching, because I was on CBS 58 in Milwaukee, and I was like, there's gonna be one lady sitting at home watching CBS 58 that has no idea who I am, but is hearing my voice and seeing my face. When you guys speak publicly, are you thinking about like one specific student is hearing you, or do you just kind of think like, oh, there's a lot of people out there? Because that was the nervous part for me.
I think I know what you're about to say.
Exactly. I'm not gonna lie. Jim. So this is my like for real mentor. Like he calls me and we sat down even at my job, and he literally teaches me. So honestly, what he taught me was figure out a avatar, a character avatar. Okay, so before I ever even spoke, like not family wise, but. Okay, he had me sit down and write out, who are you specifically talking to?
Sure.
So I had to go back in my mind, like, oh man, who am I talking to? And after weeks and weeks of contemplation, I realized I was talking to me. Yeah. I was talking to me at around the ages of like 18 to 21, that confused kid who didn't understand anything about life, who like I've always been an optimist. I've never been pessimistic, but I didn't always dream as big as I dream now. So I was going back to that kid. I was talking directly to that kid who had in his mind, man, am I able to do this? No, sure. Yes, you are able to do this.
And the reason why this is so effective, first of all, when I did this exercise 10 years ago, it was me at 16. So like I had that full realization. It's like, what are their cares? What are their interests? What do they need to know? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is all the things I wish I knew. That's my avatar. So to your question, Alan, that's such a great question, because oftentimes for any kind of public speech, whatever it be, motivational, informative, you'll go out and you want to talk to everyone. And the minute you do that, it becomes less and less relatable because you're trying to get to the person who's not paying attention. Yeah. So you're like panicking in your head, and then people turn off of that. When you focus on one person, you see that one person, everyone, it very quickly becomes intimate, and so everyone thinks you're talking exactly to them and at them. I found that probably in like my 5th or 6th talk that I ever did, where I felt it. I was like, I could feel the connection happening, is because I had, I don't say my 16-year-old face, but just more of the interest in what I wanted to get through to everyone. So I ignored the people that were like, on their phone. Yeah, you're going to get that. Any kid's going to be bored, no matter who you are. It could be anyone famous that goes in. But I was like, the people who were zoned in on me, that's who I started seeing. So I started to transform it being like my face into it being the most interested person in the room's face. Yeah. And then I was like, that's the person who's like me when I was 16. So that became more like methodological of like, find that person 5 minutes in, that's the person, and I want them to know what's going on, and then everyone else in the audience feels that way. This is not easy to do, for the record. This took me a long time to like figure out. It's hard. It's hard because you're gonna of course you're gonna focus on the people who are bored. That's where you're trying to get them going. Yeah. But the more you do that, the less effective it becomes. So focusing on the other folks, that's a great question. I'm glad. I was like, I wonder what you're saying for the.
You just taught me something now, though. I'm not gonna lie, because now that's about to be in the back of my head to find that one person who's most interested.
And that's the one. And so that's where I get, because then automatically you're excited because they're zoned in. To heck with everyone else, not in a way of like I don't care about them, but that's the one. And so pretend like everyone's feeling that way.
You lock on, so you just hope everybody kind of,
and then it doesn't
by
matter.
Association.
Then I get excited and I'm talking to them, and when I leave, I'm like, well, that person liked it. I hope everyone else did.
Because all that matters is
that's the one. You just need it.
Yeah. So all you need is one.
Yes. Now I know we've talked a little bit about your kind of your radio life, and talk about when you started thinking about speaking. Like when did you know? And I know, of course, you have your church life where you started when you were 3 to 16, right? But so it was a little while. What prompted you to start moving forward of like, I have a message to share, it's time to share it? When did that start being an inkling for you?
Honestly, I started because like even with being in radio, I just felt like something was missing. It felt like I had so much inside of me that I wanted to get out, but I couldn't figure out a medium in which to do it. And it was, I want to say, my first year, so last year, honestly, my first year out that I graduated college. So I graduated last year, like right when I graduated college. Now I'm in my head, what can I do for me? Like, yes, I the radio, but I don't own the radio station. You feel what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's not really my platform. Yeah. So I'm like, man, what is it that I can do that I will be passionate about? First thing that came to my head, Jay, you got to go back to when you were a kid. And it was startling for me because that's something I was running from. Like, I stopped speaking because like I didn't want to anymore. Like, I got tired of it. And I think it was just about being rebellious to family. Like, because they've been...
Right, you've been, they put you on stage.
Of
or they
course.
put you...
I get that, though.
You feel what I'm saying?
I would kind of have the same vibe. Like, you almost were, like, forced in a way that you felt
I was
like...
forced,
right?
yeah. As a kid, I mean, I was a little kid.
Like, and why would you run back to that? So I totally get that. Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, no, like, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But, dude, like, I just kept having a message, like the same speech that I go around, like the foundation of it is the same exact message that I was speaking as a kid. Okay. I just flipped it and made it more mature, and I took aspects of I didn't want it to be like religious or anything like that, because I wanted to touch every single single person, and that's what it was. What drew me from preaching was just that I'm really only focusing on one category of humanity, honestly. Like, I'm only focusing on these Christians. Yeah. And I'm like, no, like, I want to touch the atheists. I want to touch the Muslims. I want to touch every single religion. Right. How can I do that? Through speaking. Oh, yeah. Just become a professional speaker, a motivational speaker. And Rhea hooked me up with Jim Love. And that was I thank Rhea every single day. I saw her today. I thanked her. I thank Rhea every single day, because like what you did was you fed that fuel. So like sparked the fire, got even much bigger after that conversation we had, the very first conversation.
Oh, the phone call.
When you were in the car. Yeah. And that's what took it to another level. And then at the Wisconsin, the leadership seminar. Oh, come on now, this is what I want to do. Like,
I love it. And so and actually, all the folks from Wills are going to get this.
Oh, wow.
So we should shout them out. So we had an opportunity earlier this summer, and Alan actually got a chance to go to Wills 2 years ago to film.
I filmed one of his talks.
Yeah, wow. So the Wisconsin Leadership Seminar is a nonprofit here in Wisconsin. I've been a part of, actually, I'll be on my 18th seminar next year, which is just outrageous. I feel...
You've been doing that for 18 years
I started when I was 16 , man, so I guess do the math. Wow. Yeah,
it's more than
almost as long as your life.
I know. Okay.
I'm 24.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, we know. Right. It's an amazing organization. It's a really... awesome 3-day seminar for high school sophomores that are going into junior year to really be challenged to know more about themselves as leaders and who they are. And a big part of that weekend is having people come to speak at it, right? So I've been doing the opening and closing there for the last like three or 4 years, right? I did the Illinois version for a while, and now I've been here, and it's been such a gift. But this year, actually, after I met up with you at the Wisconsin Market Hall, which I know Omar listens to this show too, so shout out to Omar. But it became very clear. I'm like, Jason's got to be in front of this crowd. This is such a great crowd. They're a lot of fun. I didn't know where it was going to fit, but I was like, someone's got to go. So Sarah Perkins, who's one of our, one of your friends now, and someone I've known for years. And Sarah is like, it's like such an amazing niche finder. Sarah will meet someone and be like, you fit in right here, and she'll be like totally correct about it. She's like so gifted at just like meeting people, being really interpersonal with them, and then finding out where they're going to belong. So like Sarah can just direct folks in that way. It's a talent I wish I had. Like, she can right away just be like, you're going to work right there, and it works every time. So we're going back and forth. I'm like, Jason would be amazing. We have an inclusive leadership panel. So there's a panel of folks that are all different walks of life that talk about what it means to be a person of color in radio, just like all these different areas. So I was like, Jason would be a perfect fit for this. So he came, and when I tell y'all that this kid turned up and like rocked it, like on a panel that's like a half hour where you get 15 minutes to speak on that, it's hard to relate to a lot of folks. It's hard to like deliver a message succinctly. I was
going to say 15 minutes and you're on a panel.
Not
so
that
you're
easy.
Really only talking...
You're sharing the stage, right? Like for me, I get an hour, and even then I don't connect with people. Like you get that, and the amount of students that came up to you afterwards and what they shared, it was so great. And then like to watch you do that. And to like, and you and I had been working together for a little while up to that point, and I like saw some of these things. I'm like, this is like a speaker is born. This is what's going to happen. So, I know I'm not going to speak for your experience there, but I it was so much fun to watch that happen.
I'm trying to not tear up right now. I'm not gonna lie. Just think, because like that's what's so impactful for me. Like when I say that, I'm talking to me at that age. So to see people that age and to like, for them to feel like, one, they're not alone. Like, bro, like I understand. I was literally just there. So like, it's all good.
Yes.
Afterwards, it was the greatest feeling ever. Like I have never felt anything as great, and I don't know if I will feel, because nothing is like, what I'm saying, like the first time I'm sitting there, like I just got done.
That's great.
And now it was just absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to be more involved. Like,
no doubt.
I love it.
And I think it's great because this seminar, there's a space to be really vulnerable and transparent. So students ask some hard questions. I mean, some real ones about the workplace that you're in and just some of the challenges that you've had. And you had an ability to take those questions, give a very real answer, but really ended on a positive note, which it doesn't always happen. I think some folks are like, well, that sucked, and here we are. Whereas you were like, I had this experience, here's the way I approached it, and here's how better off I am as a result of what I did. And I think that's why people are like so drawn to that energy of like, oh, not only did he have a difficult experience, but he was able to make some amazing results from it and actually connect with people on a different level. Folks I know that you worked with, and just different ways that you really instilled like yourself into what you do. And that's not easy to do, I think, at your work. And so, I think pretty traditional radio, it's difficult to kind of bring the level of energy that you bring. And I know that your culture is really important to you and you do that. And I think your passions for it are really cool. So they heard that. They were like a lot of you students, like, I could see myself doing that. And I think that's why it's so critical. And then, of course, selfishly, I was like, come to my group afterwards and talk to my small group. And I was just like watching them, like when I had a group of like 10 students who were amazing, and we got back and Jason joined my group, and like we had a small group discussion, and they were like, wait, is he coming to our group? And I was like, I go, you're damn right he is. So it's like, come on in. So it was cool. And that's the type of thing where like, I know you found your avatar, like you found the people you want to speak to, and then realizing you could relate to sort of everyone in that sense, because it's the type of message that you bring. So it was just awesome to watch it. Didn't think I was going to get a shout out during that talk, by the way. That's talk about almost getting teary-eyed everywhere. But it was really unique, and I think a lot of students could see themselves in you, and that's a big part. Being young is so helpful for that, like being relatable. But what do you feel like now? Like, of course, you're going to want to participate in those. From that point, which was June, I don't know, 14th, 15th, whatever it was, what's been your sort of mindset? Like after having that really cool experience and meeting some of these folks, did it instill more spark in you to kind of keep going? What's been the focus for you since that weekend and having that experience?
I would say my honestly just finding more spots to go speak to. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now I'm on LinkedIn. I'm hitting up my old college professors, asking, "Hey, come on, now, if you need me in." Because I remember you told me find teachers, find teacher friends. Past teachers. So I hit up some of my college professors. I hit up a couple of my high school teachers who are now at different schools, but I still hit them up just to see, looking at teacher friends. So my whole thing right now, I know, have you heard of Junior Achievement?
Yes.
Yeah, so Junior Achievement. So for their career day, I honestly use that as, because I go to every single one of those, basically. I volunteer for every single one. Because when you told me, you said volunteer as much as possible. So I was like, yes, I can get my reps in. But I use the career day to really do the inspirational message.
Like you get practice. You speak to one person or 1,000 people. You're speaking to someone, and that's what it comes down to. And I think you talked about like getting nervous because you care. You're always going to get nervous because you care. That's it. And the more you do it, the more that energy becomes something that's more, I would say, like oh gosh,
like
I had
channel it.
Channel it, but I had a way better word and I forgot. So,
motivator.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All those things.
Motivate.
What do you say? What Alan said?
Let's go with channel it. I like that one. It started with a T, and I don't remember what it was, but moving on. But it's cool to get that. You get those experiences. You do it. Now, have you had have folks responded to some of these reach outs, and what's that been like? Have they been surprised you're doing this, or have they been like, this is great, I want to help you? What's that reception been like?
They've been wanting to help. They're like, awesome. I'm going to reach out this semester, and like when I hear, that's all I need is I'm going to reach out this semester, because I know if they don't reach out, I'm gonna reach out again. So, you know what I'm saying?
Persistence is key.
But that's what the message meant, and because I posted a couple videos of me speaking at Accurate Day on LinkedIn. Awesome. And I think once they actually saw it, because I didn't have any video to show. Yeah, right. I mean, who am I? Hey, can I come speak at your school? And I don't have nothing to show them. So
we've talked about this with him before, where you're like, there is like a vetting process to be like, who is Jim Love? Is he not just a guy off the street? So that helps. Absolutely.
And it's interesting because there's, and I've heard this from a lot of speakers who've been doing it for way longer than I have. There's a balance between giving away your message and then being like, here's a snippet of it, but also like hire me based off the snippet. So it's kind of you have to play with boundaries a bit. Like I didn't make a highlight video until like a year and a half ago. I have like a 2.5 minute highlight video, which goes into some of what I do, but doesn't give it all away. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be like, here's the 15-minute message and you don't need me anymore. You're good to go. So it's a unique balance. You've done that really well. I think it's a couple, like the minute videos, 30-second videos, and just to get people's like beak sweat, if you will. But like, the main thing is showing like your why you're different. It's showing like anybody can go up and just be like, here's leadership, this is what it is. But if you're like, dude, we like turn up, like when I go out there, like I'm out in the crowd, like that's really what I wanted to show. And it's different than what someone else maybe in a suit and tie, which is not my thing. Like we'll go up and be at a podium and read. Like that is so opposite what I do. And I want to portray that. So like, what do you feel if people ask you what your thing is, or what is the way that's differentiates you from other folks? What do you tell them?
I would say honest. One, my energy is
totally.
My charisma is like, and I didn't even realize, I didn't even know what charisma meant until I got to WTMJ. I'm not gonna lie. Sure. Like I would hear the word charisma, but like, what is charisma? Like what? But when I remember when Eric Billstead, he was the news director at WTMJ, when he was like, yeah, man, like your charisma is unmatched. And then they kept calling me fearless. So I obviously started programming my own mind, like, wow, people think I'm charismatic and fearless. So I became it, in all honesty.
Right. Speak it into existence, right?
I spoke it into, they really spoke it into existence. Yeah. And I just, since I believed it,
that's great.
It came to be.
Yeah.
So those are definitely two things that set me apart. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the way that I like to deliver messages, I like to deliver is so simplistic, like just so simplistic. And then I love analogies. Like one of my big things is something called like I can't virus. Like I love stuff like that where you can paint a picture, but make it relatable to what's going on in the world right now. Like we're talking about I can't virus, boom, coronavirus. I made it when Ebola virus was going on. So so I think that's kind of what it is.
That's awesome.
I do think one thing too that I can just tell, like I haven't seen your social media. I don't know what it looks like. You walked in here and you're like, wait, can I get a real quick video? Is you are documenting the journey of it too. Yeah. Which I think is something that is also one relatable to like whoever you're going to go speak to, because they're going to learn your story before they even see you, right? But two, you are harnessing something that I think a lot of people, maybe not even like TMJ, but like speakers don't harness on. Like you were saying, like you just made a highlight video last year.
Yep.
He's got from day one. You know what I mean? Like
that's a huge deal.
Out and has like that posted, and people can see it too. Like, and this is again not even seeing your social media. I can tell you know what you're doing with it, and that's smart. That is so smart, and I think like kind of a cheat code. You know what I mean? Is if you know how to harness it and use it and do things that are going to push you forward with it, and it seems like you definitely know how to do that. So I mean, that is also something. And that's why it's different too.
Are you finding like, so your speaking experience, as you're getting more and more of it, is it starting to influence the way that you approach your work on the radio? Are you seeing congruence in that, or is it not changing much and you're just like, I'm doing that, but are you seeing them combine a little bit as this goes on?
It's pretty much the same. I'm not gonna lie. Like because I give the difference is like, obviously you giving a speech is more formatted. You're going in more so of an order, like during a show, anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? Like you veer off topic easy. But they do meet in the middle, because at the end of the day, in both instances, I'm just trying to inspire. Like once I realized, because I was going over like, what's my purpose in life? Purpose. Once I realized that I could be used as a beacon of inspiration, that's when it was like, oh, I think that's my purpose in life, is to just simply inspire others. So with the radio, with the professional speaking, I'm getting that same goal done.
Yeah, you got the platforms to do it. It's just time to keep it rolling. That's awesome.
Keep it going.
So where does keeping it going look like? What are you looking to do in the next 6 months, year, whatever, with speaking?
I want to keep speaking. My end goal, like I want professional speaking to be my like thing. Like that's what I do. Like I'm a professional speaker. I also want I still want like, a radio show. But I would much rather do that kind of part-time.
Yeah.
And like if I can get to a level where like I'm just professional speaking, I'm at different professional sports team, at colleges. I really, really want to go to colleges. That's my main thing, because I just feel like those are the minds that you can really shape right then and there, because they right in between the teenage years and like true adulthood. Because I'm 24 and I don't feel like an adult.
The most willing to listen and learn to.
And most willing to listen to. Yeah. But you see, like I feel like I'm 24 and I don't feel like I'm an adult. So I know they don't.
That's why finding that person's so important. Like, where you want to be, where you spend your time with. Like, so whereas me, high school has always been my bread and butter. Like, that's what I've always known I've been good at. I've done college, I've done like middle school and junior high, but I've had like a 16-year-old has just always had some level of connection. It's because I think I experienced this all when I was 16, and really that's where it's at. Yeah,
you said your avatar.
Totally. Which is it. Like, so when you do that exercise, you're starting to sit like, okay, this is the group I belong in. So all your energy goes towards finding yourself to be in that group with those people as much as you can. Now, what's interesting is over the years, I've been able to speak to like parents and done a couple groups. Wow. It's always gone well, but like pretty clear where I belong. It's not with like, a bunch of parents, but I've done like some corporate stuff, which is more leadership training, I would say, and development more than is like a keynote, but I've done it. And it was a cool like stretch project for me. And I was really nervous going in because I'm like, how is this company going to feel about this, 29-year-old coming in to see what happens? But it's fun. Like, I have a good time. Parents are just, to me, just kids who have been around the block a couple more times, but like they still have some goofiness if you bring it out of them a little bit. But I know like that's where my audience is in that high school student. And then where your audience is at in the college student, which is just, it's so critical. And I think generally as a takeaway, whatever your passion or your voice is, what you want to use it, find where that niche is and pursue it relentlessly. Right?
Can I ask you a question real quick about that? Mm-hmm. Because I do want to know, like, when you're talking to parents and then corporate and kids, first off, completely different audiences.
Right.
So how do you make your approach? So like, it got to be completely different.
It's more where I just turn up on different examples. Like, so my keynote, I talk about like an old boss and then like a past relationship. The old boss becomes more the focal point when I'm speaking with like professionals or parents. And then I'm a little bit less goofy. I mean, just honestly, I read the room and I'm like, let's see what they're feeling. I don't want to say make it more serious, but I'm more dive into like topics and make it more relatable. So whereas I would say like in your classmates, I say in your coworkers, like I just small word verbiage changes like that. So the good thing is like, of course, I memorize most of what I say. On the fly, I could just be like, make it just a bit more relatable to that group. The content doesn't change. The content's the content. It's about finding your voice, about being authentic. If you're 8 years old or 88 years old, you need to do those things. Right. So I find that that's always been relatable, but I change up small parts of the verbiage, which I do practice way more if I'm going to go into a corporate thing or with parents. But like leadership training is the same. Like finding your leadership style, that doesn't change a whole lot, when depending on how old you are. And some people haven't been through that exercise if they're an adult or a student, but you really got to read the room. You can tell right away if you've lost them. You can tell, and I'll make fun of them. I'm like, all right, that didn't work. Like, let's continue on. Yeah. Then they relate to that. That's like, people don't relate to perfect. That's what I've really found is people relate to authentic. They don't like, no one's perfect. Like, we're humans. Like if I make a mistake, you better believe I call it out. I'm like, that didn't make sense, or whatever it is. But I like doing that. No. Yeah, right. Like, I like doing that. It's more fun. But like, that's the relatable part. You don't relate to someone who's like well polished and perfect. No way. That's not how humans are. You relate to other humans who just happen to have a story to tell. That's kind of what I found.
Without question. Wow, that's amazing because I actually find that same thing when it comes to perfection. For me, the beauty is in the madness. So it's like, so the little mess ups and all, like, well, that fun. Didn't work. Yeah, dude, that makes it fun.
That's
and
the part.
Draws them.
That's why people are like, oh, so he's like us.
He's right.
He messed that up too. Like, I mess things up constantly, like all the time, and I'm like, I'm not gonna hide that. But that's also I made that into my message. My message about being authentic. That's what it is.
And you just keep. The thing is, you even after you stumble, you keep going. You just keep going. A lot of people, they get in their head and
I used to be like that, but now I'm like, oh, whatever. Okay, cool, move on. And I know you're similar. But as we're starting to wrap up here a little bit, what has been one thing I would say, like in your journey so far of trying to become a speaker, one thing that you've learned that you're like it really, really holding on to as maybe it's an experience you had speaking to some folks, or maybe it's something maybe on your own self-discovery. You're like, I didn't realize that about myself. If there's like one thing that you've been like, okay, that's a new thing, I really need to harness that into being part of this kind of whole journey I've had.
I learned
a lot of stuff. Boil it down.
That's what I'm saying. Like, a couple of the main things I learned. One, like you were saying, keep going regardless. Because I mean, it can get, especially before I was like, how am I even going to get in front of a group of people to even speak? But understanding confidence and understanding that, dude, that success is not really based on academic skills or not based on like the stuff. It's based on practical skills. It's based on just actually doing it, getting the experience, getting the reps. That's what it's more so about. And the only way that you can really master that is through confidence in yourself, isn't through the believing in your abilities. So I think that my belief in my abilities is one of the main things that I've learned.
Awesome.
Just understanding, like, no, like, you are here for a reason. When I say here for a reason, that you have your purpose. You found what you believe that you are here for. Now you can go all in and 100% believe in you while doing it.
For sure.
I mean, I think that's the pod.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to drop it? Here, take the mic and drop it.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah. I've gotten so much out of this, and not only like I don't speak publicly, really. I mean, I do this. And you know what I mean? I'll co-host things with him once in a while.
Right.
Not anything like amazing, right?
No, this is the first time. This is amazing. No.
Very inspirational.
That's all him right there, man.
To like be able to like learn and like pick up both of you, just kind of like student, teacher, vice versa. Like you guys are learning off of each other. Yeah, I know.
Trust me, you've taught me a lot.
I said it the way I said it for a reason. No. And like learning pieces from that, and like to actually watching you grow as a speaker right now, doing this, just hearing this, and vice versa. You know what I mean? You're growing as a leader right now.
Right.
That's awesome to see. Like, so I'm very excited for where you can take things, where you're headed. The podcast sounds cool too. On top of that,
we'll be there soon.
Yeah,
like, we're coming.
Right after this, we
should talk about this too.
Yeah.
Where's the best place to go find you and get in touch with you? Where's the best place to see this social media?
So you can go on Instagram. Well, really on everything. Instagram is the Jason Smith. Facebook just Jason Smith. Twitter the Jason Smith. I like to add the because Jason Smith is such a common name.
I was gonna say that probably helps.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jason, I looked up Jason Smith as an NBA player, as a politician.
There's a couple of them.
Like man, so I was like, oh man, how can I differentiate myself? So I put okay, let's put the V in front. And then on LinkedIn, Jason Smith. So I mean, honestly, I used to hate my name. That's the craziest thing. I thought it was so bland and so simple.
Yeah.
But then I was like, hey, listen, you make the name, so let's run with it.
Awesome. I was the other way. There's like no Allens that are spelled the way that mine is spelled. So I'm like, God, like. That's for another day. It's for a different podcast. Anyway, make sure you connect with Jason and see what he's up to for sure. If you've listened to this podcast for the first time or for the 88th time or even more than that, thank you so much for doing that. We are the Hustling Sideways podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, LinkedIn as well. We're on YouTube. We're all over the place. We're the Hustling Sideways podcast. And you can get this wherever you get your podcast too. You got to rate us 5 stars.
That's the rules.
That's the only one legally that you are allowed to rate us.
We don't make the rules.
That's it. 5 stars. Yes. Nothing less.
Even if they don't have stars, you have to rate us 5 stars. I don't know how you do it. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a guest on this podcast as well, we've got an email. It's hustlingsideways@gmail.com. Feel free to send us an email from there. And Jim,
keep on hustling.
We will see you next week.
Thank you, Jason, for coming.
Thank you.